योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचा मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोतुं प्रवरं मुनीना पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिं प्राणतोऽस्मि। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. All right. So we'll start with our Sutra number 17 today. Last class we talked about Sutra number 16, which was the different forms of Vairagya. Last one was specifically on the highest form of Vairagya that Patanjali Maharishi talks about. And we also walked through the three different stages of Vairagya where we struggle to, overcome our raga dveshas. There is some, then you get into some level of control versus not control about our day-to-day lives, and then finally you go into complete surrender, or you have complete control in sense. Okay, so this today the sutra number 17 talks about what's called sampragyata samadhi. Okay, so Patanjali Maharishi is introducing now or talking about samadhi, which is further explained in chapter 3. We go into detail there. But Sutra number 17 starts to describe that a little bit. So the sutra goes, Vitarka Vichara Ananda Asmita Nugamata Sampragyata. Okay. So each of these words has specific meanings. I'll start with Sampragyata. Sampragyata basically talks about prajna is the highest level of intelligence. Okay. So the intelligence that we experience day to day, the human intelligence, is informed by what is perceived by the sense organs, right? So whatever we see, we hear, we taste, we smell, we use that to take input and then form our intelligence around it. Prajna is a higher intelligence, which is the cosmic intelligence. Cosmic intelligence does not need the external apparatus to inform us. Okay, so cosmic intelligence is more around the inner working. It works through the inner operating system, if you will, of our beings. So prajna here refers to the cosmic intelligence, and sampragyata samadhi is basically the samadhi that is achieved through this cosmic intelligence. Okay, and here Patanjali Maharishi is talking about samadhi, the state where basically he describes it across four parts of a spectrum. And he uses these words vitarka, vichara, ananda, asmi. Okay, so samadhi itself is almost the way to obtain, or maybe obtain is not the right word, but the way to bring about that state of samadhi. There are different aspects or spectrums in which you can achieve that. Okay, so the first one is vitarka. Vitarka basically means using an object, so, or seeing something, or using a mantra. So a lot of times, in our sadhana, we do mantra sadhana or we do idol worship. We use that, a murti or some kind of upasana form, to then transcend beyond it. So that is a type of sadhana, right? Where when we talk about upasana, we're sitting in front of an idol and we do the daily worship. But after a certain point, you are able to transcend that form to experience that oneness. So that is Savitarka Sampragyata Samadhi. So that is one type. The second is Vichara. Vichara is using a thought. So you basically have a thought and you're using that as a bridge towards Samadhi. Now, when we look at the Ashtanga Yoga, it's Dharana Dhyana Samadhi, right? You have to, once you go into pratyahara, you have to use something to get to the dharana stage, to be able to concentrate and then deeply meditate and then transcend or come into a state of samadhi. So he's using this dharana dhyana samadhi, is breaking this up into four different levels of bridging towards samadhi. So vichara is thought. Ananda is bliss. The feeling of inner bliss when you do sadhana and you awaken that inside you, being able to hold on to that and using that as a bridge towards samadhi is Ananda Samprakyata Samadhi. And then the last one is Asmi, which is the highest, where you feel that oneness with the bigger cosmic self, where you identify with that bigger me. You know, we talk about the small me and the big me, where you identify with the bigger me, having that kind of identification, using that to then bridge towards Samadhi. So Patanjali Maharishi is so beautifully explaining these different ways, right? Which is very interesting because a lot of times, when we, especially with Vedantic studies and when we talk about sadhana, there are all these different methods. You use idol worship, some don't. And there's a lot of back and forth on which is the right way, which is not the right way. But very beautifully, he's described that every road pretty much leads to that state of samadhi when used correctly, right? Now, one of the things talked about here as well is the koshas. So, the panchakoshas that we all have, right? These are different sheaths, if you will, that exist in our bodies. Typically, it is depicted as, concentric circles or things that are stacked one on top of the other. That's more of a visual because for us to, to learn and study. But really, the way it exists in us, it's very it's diffused into every part of our body. So every cell of our body has this amalgamation of the panchakoshas. So the panchakoshas essentially, what they do is they basically form these layers, or if you can consider them symbolically as these layers within our being, where the consciousness is it exists at the highest level, and with further and further awareness and sadhana, it starts to withdraw into the innermost layers or innermost kosha, if you will. So we'll talk about that briefly and understand what it means for us from a day-to-day standpoint. So the Annamaya kosha, okay, which is the outermost, which is considered the food sheath or the gross level, is basically a kosha in our body that is sustained by what we eat, how we nourish our body, how we take care of our body, etc. Right? Then you have the pranamaya kosha, which is the pranic sheath, the vital sheath, as we call it. Okay, that is based on how our pranic system exists in our body. So a lot of times when you do pranayama or when you work on your true subtle body, the pranic body system in yourself, you are impacting how that kosha exists, right? Then you have the manomaya kosha, which is the mental sheath, vijnanamaya kosha, which is the intellectual sheath, and then anandamaya kosha, which is the bliss, the bliss sheath, as they call it, which is the closest to the Atman, right? So again, if you think of it just from a studying perspective, I'm just showing it to the camera here, and I just kind of drew this picture. So these are all the different sheets, and the yellow lines basically indicate the awareness, the consciousness that is going from the gross and slowly coming into the innermost. So when we talk about samadhi, it is that journey of consciousness going from that grossest to the most subtlest, the finest, subtler than the subtle, right? That is what is depicted here. And one of the a few takeaways, if you all remember from previous classes, and we talk about this in our other satsangs, the antakarna, the operating system for us, as we all sometimes refer to it, it is made of man, buddhi, chitta, ahankar, right? So these four are always working hand in hand. And today during our satsang, we talked about how man and chitta are together and buddhi and ahankar are always linked, right? So if you look at, things that you feel, emotions, sometimes you can't explain certain feelings. They are often caused by these unconscious memories today in our morning satsang, we talked about how sometimes these things are, like things we put away in a little freezer and, or a storage, but we keep taking it out and trying to see how it tastes or feels. These unconscious memories, right? We don't necessarily let go. We hold on to a lot of things. So chitta plays a very big role in defining those. And the man, the emotional perception of that or the emotional experience of that is always closely related. Same with intelligence, buddhi. is always linked to the ahankar. When you feel like you're that intelligent person, you start to have a bit of that, pride and how you look at yourself or portray yourself, right? So these are often linked. The manomaya kosha is usually the one that is related to the man and chitta, that kind of linkage. And the vijnanamaya, the intelligence, is the buddhi and ahankar. Okay, so that's something to really keep in mind. And what is interesting in this, you'll see that, we've talked about the antakarna and how divinizing the buddhi, right, is actually probably the only way to allow the awareness, the light of awareness to seep into us, right? So if you look at, you have the man, you have the ego, you have the chitta, which is not something you can really control. But the more you use jnana yoga to divinize the buddhi, divinize the intellect, the more that light keeps penetrating through you, through your soul, through your intelligence, through your being. And the way you see a situation or you see a person completely changes, right? And even in the koshas, that Vijnanamaya is the closest to that Anandamaya kosha, the one that is really, kind of the finest layer, if you will, uh, right there with the Atman, as we call it, depicted in this stacked thing. So that's something about the koshas where, when we talk about samadhi, which Patanjali Maharishi here is talking about sampragyat samadhi, it is that journey of awareness and consciousness that goes from the gross all the way to the subtle, which means a journey of going from the external to the internal, right? So if we draw parallels in our lives, it is the journey of going inwards and quietening down and going into introspection and turning inwards, then seeking the answers from the outside. I think that is, the big takeaway for us as we think about this. And these koshas also contribute to, how we experience the auric energy in our body. So the highest aura is emanated by the innermost. So the Anandamaya kosha element emanates the highest aura. It can go almost up to 2, 3 feet, 6 feet. When you have a very enlightened person, and when we say, "Oh my God, I don't even have to go near the person. I'm just standing, in the queue or in the crowd, and I can feel it. I can really feel it." It's their auric energy. And you'll also find the layer that is outermost. It is the auric energy is very short, which means if you just put your hand over the other hand, you'll feel the warmth. You'll feel that kind of energy, right? That's all. Like, it's very superficial. So, a couple of things in the sutra for us to understand, to say that, whatever path we choose, whether it is through a mantra or through an idol or through japa, these are all at the end of the day instruments for us to get to that state of just being, right? And the eventual goal is through your practice. Today, when we sit down, we do a few pranayamas, we close our eyes, we visualize something, and then we are led into it. Eventual goal is through sadhana, time and time again. You can just sit down, close your eyes, and you're in there, right? You don't necessarily need these tools, but you have to use them as a sadhak. We all have to use it in the beginning for us to hold on to something. So, something to really think about is in your day to day, as you're trying to go deeper, what is working and what is not. A lot of times we say, I'm sitting down for meditation, but it's just not working, or I'm not able to focus, or you're sitting there for 2 hours and you think you meditated, but you've just rested. There's a real difference, right? We have to ask the question, like, what is true meditation? What did I feel, or what was happening inside me? So that kind of introspection, which will lead to, okay, how am I preparing for meditation every day? Am I starting with some pranayama? Am I starting with japa? What is working for me? That kind of analysis is for our sadhana is very, very critical. Yeah. I'll pause there and have some discussion questions.
I have one
Yes.
question.
So correct.
You mentioned about the Vichara, Vitarka, Vichara, and the Asmi.
Yeah.
The Asmi is, you mentioned the bigger me.
Yeah.
That is nothing but the innermost.
Yes, 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 yes. We talk about bigger me, smaller me in the context of the smaller me being your that individual ego, the ankar, the bigger me being that sakshi bhav, right? Which is nothing but the Atman, where you are identifying with that sakshi bhav that is a witness to your life. It's not necessarily being dragged with the ups and downs. It's witnessing, it's accepting, um, you know, and being there to just observe and watch. And, today in our Manipura chakra class, we talked about how a big part of the Manipura chakra, right? Like the theme for this week in our yoga classes, Manipura chakra, a big part of that is really coming to terms with accepting, the situation and being able to surrender the ego, right? And being able to surrender ourselves, becoming the yajna, becoming the fuel to the, our ahuti to the yajna of life, sort of a thing. That kind of fire and will is developed in the Manipura chakra for a sadhak. But, if we are not there yet, or we're still hung up on the material things, that essentially manifests as a strong desire for like money, career, all of those things, which of course exist. But the key question is what, at the end of the day, how do you define, identify, yourself? Are you identifying yourself with these materialistic things? Or are you able to look beyond while you still participate in the pursuit of these things? So I think to your point, to answer your question, the me is basically the Sakshi Bhav, the bigger me. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to ask you about meditation.
Yes.
So, what I understand, like, just correct me if I'm wrong, meditation means like you're being in that moment. Like you're not distracted, your mind is nowhere. What you are doing, either like in action or just being there. Is it
Right. Yeah. I wouldn't say you are not distracted. I think it's more about coming back to your present moment,
okay?
even if you are distracted. I don't, it's very hard to, yeah, eliminate that. It's working through that. Yeah.
So, how I do meditation, like two things. Like when I'm working, I listen to the music. So, of course, I'm distracted. I would say not distracted, but I am listening to music. But then no other thought is coming in my mind. I'm just focusing on the music and my hands are working. Like what I'm doing, I'm doing. The another thing is when in the morning, when I do my prayers, I light turn up the diya, Deepak, and then I do my japa with mala. So when I do, I need to focus on the jyot of diya, Deepak, to keep me,
Correct.
there.
Yeah.
If my mind is going out,
Yeah.
it helps me to come back. But when I do mala, I do like I close my eyes.
Yeah.
I'm just feeling it and what I'm like chanting. And can I think you're right.
Yeah.
It's hard to stay.
You
in
cannot.
that moment.
Yeah.
My mind is going, but
Yeah.
I'm able to
Bring
with
it back.
each mala, each beat, I'm able
Yes.
to get my
Yeah.
mind back to I think.
Yeah.
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 But it's the very first stage of the meditation. I believe it should be.
Yeah.
How it could be like every time 24/7 when you are awake. How can you be in a meditative state? Or is it achievable or
When we talk about being in a state, in that state 24/7, I always look at it as being in a state of awareness 24/7, right? Meditation is not like, it's not just how it looks where you're just closing your eyes or just, sitting in a place. I think you can do that too and still be thinking about something else that is not meditation, right? So a lot of things, Rashmika ji, that you described are in preparation for that state where, you know, you are here and now and you are focused on the present. And we do the things like japa, we do the things like nam smaran, We focus on the jyoti. We do all those things to get us to that dhyana. So the dharana, the ability to concentrate, we're creating with these techniques and things, right? But to be in that state every day basically means to be aware, to really bring in a very high level of awareness to everything we do. So maybe when we are chopping vegetables, we're aware that we're chopping vegetables, we're cooking. When we're in conversation, we are aware of our ahankar that always is standing in between you and the other person, and you understand that what I'm speaking, where is it coming from? I'm aware. What that person is saying, where is that coming from? I'm aware. So being in a state of awareness is what we mean by, being that, blissful state, if you will, like daily. Use your sadhana for that. So the more we are in practice of it, the more we surrender. I think a couple of things to be in that state of awareness is knowing that you are not the doer, right? Is giving up that doership, knowing that you get up and do your thing, but ultimately the way the cards fall is not you. It is, there's a higher force, that also there's a cosmic intelligence that plays a role there. So giving up that need for controlling things that you don't control and focusing only on what you control, which is you putting in the effort for it, right? So being aware of that and knowing that, you know, everything you need is here right now in this moment, to be honest. I mean, you can have all the worries in the world about the future, even about what is going to happen in a few hours, or regret and guilt about what's happened in the past. But really, everything you need actually is right now, is here. You're able to breathe, you're able to sit down, you're able to enjoy a quiet moment. You're living and breathing. So just being in that awareness.
So is it like mindfulness is the one type of meditation, or that's the meditation?
I wouldn't say it's a type of meditation. I think, yeah, mindfulness is basically being in a state of awareness.
Whatever we are doing,
Yes.
focus.
Yeah, bringing your, yes,
Yeah.
bringing, not, thinking about something else and, doing it sort of a thing. Really putting yourself in this moment when you're doing it, whatever it is, something you like or something you don't like. Yeah, mindfulness is definitely something that people talk about these days. When you say, how are you being aware, how are you bringing that sense of awareness to your day-to-day moments? Yeah.
Can you explain more about koshas? Like
Yes.
I guess the third, fourth, and fifth ones?
Yeah. So the Annamaya kosha, the outermost, is basically, so it's divided into gross, subtle, and causal. Okay, so gross layer is basically everything that has to do with, in the kosha speak, it's the Annamaya kosha and the Pranamaya kosha. Okay, it's all the gross layers. The subtle is the Manonmaya, Vijnanamaya. So everything to do with the mental and the intellectual. So these are basically, they are always, like I said, when we are looking at it, is represented as sheaths that are consecutive, but really they exist in an amalgamation form, if you will, in every cell of the body. They're diffused in every cell of the body. So essentially, they carry, certain levels of energy and uh, uh, divine light, if you will, at different layers. So if it's at the grossest level, it's in the Annamaya kosha and the Pranamaya kosha. When it's subtle, when you're looking at the mind, when you're going behind, sometimes you act a certain way and you wondering why you acted that way. Or, sometimes you're trying to have a conversation, but you end up just crying. Like it's just overwhelming. There's something else that you cannot describe that maybe is coming from a deeper unconscious that you're not able to put words to. These are things that are sitting in our chitta or antakarna, right? Those are all governed by the subtle koshas. So the manomaya kosha that deals more with the mind, and the vijnanamaya kosha that deals more with the intellect, the buddhi. So buddhi being, when we think about the antakarna, buddhi being the one thing that can help you make the right decision, right? Your manas is going to feel whatever it feels. Your ego is a maniac. This is going to be trying to control everything. Chitta, you have no control over. It's memories, sum total of all your conscious, unconscious memories over lifetimes, really, that is sitting in your system. So the only thing at the end of the day when you act is your buddhi basically saying, all right, ego, I know how you feel through your manas, but this is not the right action, right? So the ability to discriminate, to have that viveka shakti, to say, I am not going to do this, even though I feel like doing it, it's not good for me or for the other person. That ability to discriminate is coming from the buddhi. And the buddhi can only do that when it is given the right knowledge, jnana, right? So when we say divinizing the buddhi is basically using jnana yoga to receive the right knowledge and then influencing your karma yoga around it. So that is basically how the antakarna works. And the manonmaya vijnanamaya koshas govern that system in the pancha koshas. So the way we show up in the world and the way we express ourselves in the world is directed by the antakarna, a combination of these four things working. They're almost like, like the operating system in our body or in our being. So when you look at someone like, wow, what a sweet personality, it's got a lot to do with how that person has felt about these type of interactions in the past, how not intelligent, but how discriminatory that person is, how that person feels, how emotional they are. It has a lot to do with that. And same with someone who's not showing up that way.
So basically, the Annamaya Kosha and Pranamaya Kosha is gross, but like we can actually manage
through
to
good
get better
food,
with
yes.
the
When
food
you
and
eat the right
pranayama.
food,
Yeah.
when you do the right exercise,
Is there
yes.
anything for other three? Like what we can do actually to make that better?
Yes. So firstly is using jnana yoga, is getting into jnana, right? So when we study Vedanta and we are able to understand what our shastras are telling us and how we need to apply it to our lives, you are allowing light to come into your operating system. And that influences your manomaya kosha, vijnanamaya kosha. So imagine this, right? When we talk about the auric energy, or when we talk about the energy, we said that the innermost layer, right, the Anandamaya kosha, exudes the highest level of auric energy. You can go to any kind of, today you have a lot of places that they do auric photography. You can actually do that. You'll be able to see, your aura and things like that. But basically, your innermost kosha exuberates the highest, a depth of height or whatever of auric energy. So when you think about the Anandamaya kosha, that is very, very subtle. That is something, I would say comes through a great deal of surrender. That layer enriching, because it's very close to that causal being where, you have your entire karmic story stored that is going to manifest in your life. To change your karmic story, there are some things you can influence through sadhana. Some things will change, but some things won't, because that's just the timeline, right? What changes is how we respond to it. What sadhana does is, yeah, it happened, but here's a tool. You've meditated, you know how to meditate, you know how to, withdraw yourself, and you know how to get out of your situation. You know this is temporary. So you use that to then respond to that karma that is unfolding, right? It doesn't mean the karma is gone or anything.
So you don't get entangled with another karma.
Correct. Yes. So when we talk about influencing that innermost layer, that requires a lot of grace. Grace is not something you manufacture. You surrender and you receive, right? And you come into acceptance. So that is that innermost Anandamaya kosha that we talk about. The two outside of it, the Manonmaya, Vijnanamaya, are things where you can definitely take the steps through Jnana Yoga to divinize your antakarna, to allow that light, to divine light, to come in and guide you. So when we talk about prajna, the cosmic intelligence, it doesn't need what we use to receive input from the world and then process the intelligence. It doesn't need that. Sometime when your prajna is coming through, when your buddhi is divinized, you will receive that cosmic intelligence. It will come to you as a sadhak, and you will reach a state of awareness, right, which is much higher than what you experience day to day, and you'll see that difference. So those are things you can work on, if you will, right? Some things you can't change, like the chitta can't change a lot of things, but you definitely can take the steps of Vedantic study, doing bhakti yoga, being in the presence of realized beings, being in the thought of realization. Those are steps we take to influence the subtler layers of our being, to be more advanced and evolved as souls. And of course, if you do all that, but you're going out and just not taking care of your body or your prana, this kind of defeats the purpose. So again, there being eating the right food, that's why we say, like, when the kind of diet influences your sadhana. When you are very deep in sadhana, even things like garlic and onion like, that's why we have a lot of sadhus who don't take it, right? Because it actually makes a difference in how they're able to sit and focus on their sadhana, because it's so subtle. Their bodies, their awareness has reached to such fine levels of existence in the kosha, that even a slight change of things, or slight rajasic type of things, will impact their sattvic way of life or doing things. For a lot of us, we may not see that, because we're still evolving, and we're used to certain types of foods. So that's where all of those things start to come in: exercise and taking care of your body, doing pranayama and going through a purification of prana in itself is a whole, like a study, right? Especially when we talk about chakras, when we talk about chakra purification, those kinds of things, they work on the very subtle aspects of us, especially like Vishuddhi, like the ether. Those are very fine, very, very fine things. So when you start to work on those, you realize that you've accumulated a lot of mal, right? Like, that's why we use Patanjali Maharishi is here giving us the Yoga Sutras. Um, so you start to cleanse out those and dissolve those in the light and thaw those and let those go, so that you can experience what this higher level of awareness is, which at the grossest sense, it's hard to comprehend or receive, if that makes sense.
Yeah. One more question might be silly, but what is the difference between man and a chitta?
Man is your manas, right? So your mind, if you will. Um, Chitta is basically the unconscious and the subconscious memories that you have accumulated over lifetimes, including this one. So think of it as, you may have experienced something when you were younger. It had a very big impact on you, but maybe you didn't deal with it, and you just, you moved on in your life. But every now and then, when something happens in your adult life, it triggers something inside you, because your mind is then reaching into that chitta and, like, tapping it, like, no, this was not solved. There's still you have all these inner child kind of healings, right, that people talk about in psychotherapy, and we've become more aware of, is because when you have certain blocks about certain things or people in your life and you don't address it, it does carry forward into your adult being. So when you do certain things, you're not sure, why do I not feel comfortable here? Like, or why is it different? You're not able to explain it. These are certain patterns that have been accumulated over and over and over lifetimes. And they all reside in
The past, previous
yes,
lifetimes.
yes. I mean, there are so many kids also, I feel like. I mean, I don't know this, but like my son, for example, he was very young when he was like, I don't do mushrooms or whatever. Like he's till date never, like he's never tasted it, right? But he had a very strong opinion about something like that. Like, sometimes you can't explain those things. They come something that's carried forward from a previous life. Absolutely, it's over lifetimes. It's not just here. And it is something that'll carry on in future lifetimes. So the key is to learn to, not get tangled up in that.
So when you said your mind goes to chitta, it taps to chitta, so mind is brain or it's
No, mind is not
subtle?
brain. Yeah,
Mind
it's
is
subtle.
also
Yes,
subtle.
yes, right?
Yeah.
Brain is the physical part that maybe stores the memories and things. Mind is more a subtler aspect of who we are,
Yeah.
right? But also doesn't, I think, do justice to man.
That's
Man.
not another ego, mind,
Ego is what you project.
what you project.
Yeah. Ego is how I project. I'll feel something in my mind. So my mind knows that I shouldn't be doing this, but my ego says, no, I need to give it back to this person. They need to know that they cannot walk over me. Though your mind knows that doing that is only going to create more chaos.
The buddhi.
Yes, the buddhi should influence the mind. Yes.
Discern what is.
Yes. So the buddhi should then say, okay, mind, you're right. Ego, stand back. And the ego should surrender to that buddhi and say, okay, I stand back, I understand. But a lot of times we just,
So I don't understand. Why did you say like mind and buddhi goes together and chitta and
no, man and chitta go
and
together.
then chitta goes
Buddhi,
together.
ahankar together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're always, when they go together in the sense, they play a very significant role in influencing each other. But these four things always work together in the antakarna. So you should always, when we think about it, that's why I love the word. I read this somewhere. It's like the operating system. It really is the operating system of this hardware. That is us, right? That is what the antakarna is. So every aspect of the antakarna actually should be looked at, should be studied very, very deeply, and should be worked on, because that in itself can produce a lot of changes in our lives when we introspect on that and we actually do Vedantic study and take those in. Yeah.
So Antakarana is just Mano, Buddhi, Mano, Chitta, Buddhi, Ahankar.
Man, Chitta, Buddhi, Ahankar. Yes, yes. Yeah. Yeah. And you'll see that even like in the heart is where that Man and Chitta play a role, because they really tug at that emotions. They always have that emotional flair when it's Man and Chitta combined, right? Because you're really tapping into certain feelings that are very, very deep rooted, that you just haven't really looked under the hood, but they're there. And the minute it takes is one tap, and then you're just exploding sometimes.
It's just a thought. Chitta is thought.
Yeah.
Chitta is a thought.
Thought and memory, if you will, like almost like a snapshot of memory, right? Yes, we have sympathetic nervous system. We have all these things in place that are basically the physiological aspects of what we're talking about, right? What we're really talking about, the Yoga Sutras, or when we talk about Antakarna, they're more subtle. You can't open the human body and see this Antakarna, like, oh, this is a man, every part, every cell has the Antakarna. Every cell has a Man, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankar
So
concept.
Emotional, your experiences. What are your experiences? Where does it
Chitta.
go? Chitta.
Yeah. Experiences go right into Chitta. And the ability to tap into those experiences is Man. Because how else do you inform an act, right? You see something, you have to, how else does your brain tell you, oh yeah, like you see fire, you shouldn't put your hand in, because either you yourself have been burnt before, right? Or you've seen somebody get burnt and they've told you, basically, you've been informed that this will happen. So that is a experience, even though you've heard it from someone, that you've registered. Right? It's like little kids. Like today I was watching my son, he's learning how to ride a bike. He's coming down a pretty steep slope and he has no fear, right? He's just coming through, he's singing, and I'm looking at him just freaking out because every time I've sat on a bicycle, I've had some really bad falls. And I'm just praying he doesn't fall, right? But in his mind, he's like, get on, woo, go. But till he falls. And that's why even there it is important, right? To teach them, I know you fell, it's okay, dust yourself off.
So how can you stop this? Because you mentioned about from your experience, from your chitta, this came and your buddhi told you, oh, it might fall, so you got scared.
Yeah.
Maybe you're gonna stop him as well to do that.
Yes.
Right? So how
Yes.
can you stop yourself
Yeah.
not to affect other person
Yeah.
experiences?
Yeah.
So we don't step into that.
Yes. Because you have to know that even though that is my son, he is his own individual. He comes with his own karma. He comes with his own story. I have nothing to do with
So
him
he-
per se. It's
goes
more,
on.
it's less about let him make mistake. It's about, teaching them or at least warning them, right? Like it's not like you're gonna watch him fall and you're saying, let him fall, I'll see.
Yeah, but
It's more,
yeah.
it's more letting him,
Sometimes the parents when they born, it's
yes.
little harsh.
Yes. See, I
Because
can,
we have gone through those
yes,
things,
yes.
right? And yeah.
I know because I grew up with very overprotective parents. Like even today, my mom, she for her it's scary, right? Like when you fall, it's always like, oh my God. But I ended up marrying someone who's very adventurous and outdoorsy. A fall means nothing, to him, for example, to my husband. So that was very different for me. Like we would go, let's say, on a hike and I'd fall or scrape myself, and I'm like a big baby, and you're like, okay, here's a band-aid, boom, let's keep walking. Smell the flowers, look at the clouds. He's like, look at the beautiful things around you. There's a little bit of blood, that's okay. So I also noticed that, oh, okay, so there is another version of this story.
So you've got someone actually in your life
Yeah.
can pull you a little up
Yes.
from this experience.
Yes. But that doesn't mean I don't get scared. Today
Yeah.
I could feel it in myself. And I have actually literally when he was learning stopped because he was coming so fast, like abruptly stopped him and made him fall. And he's like, Mama, what are you doing? I have complete control on my bicycle.
Yeah.
So I had to learn this. So that's where the learning comes. That's where the awareness comes that, oh, I'm acting out of my own fear. And if I keep doing this, he's actually not going to learn to bike. He's going to dislike it and he's not going to have an enjoyable experience.
Your buddhi.
I used my buddhi at that time to say, step back, create the safe space. He's got the helmets, he's got the knee pads. When he falls, help him out. Don't obviously let him be, help him out, lift him up, tell him it's okay, dust him off, and have him get back on the bicycle because we all know that if he stops there, he's not going to learn, right? That is the truth. So it is difficult because you always, especially with your kids, you're always
Overprotective.
yes, and you're projecting yourself.
Oh yes.
That is the main thing.
You're
projecting yourself.
for other person's story or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, because I also remember, like, when they were babies, my husband used to be like, oh my God, they're so hot. Take out everything. I'm like, but I'm feeling cold.
Yes, that I used
like,
to tell my mom. Yeah.
Yeah,
because
how
when
does
we
it-
feel cold, we feel like
The babies are gonna-
also feeling cold.
But they're actually,
They are actually very cold.
they're very, very, they're like, don't give me the blankets. Like, even when they sleep, right? I'll keep covering them and they're like, no, I actually don't want a blanket. I'm like, oh, okay, because I can't sleep without it. So, yes.
Yeah, like even when we are hungry, we feel like the babies are hungry. That's what my
Yeah.
mom doing is with her grandkids, like
Yeah.
babies and So I always been telling her, no, it's not like that. If they are hungry, they will also actually.
Yeah. And I think all of us, especially mothers, so first time mothers, you're also going through motherhood for the first time, you're figuring things out. But at any stage, I think the biggest learning, and I keep reminding myself, is that these kids came with their own story. I had nothing to do with them. I was just chosen as the mother in this story, in this lifetime, right? maybe we were differently related in a previous lifetime and we have something to finish in this lifetime. So I've taken this role.
But I just, I don't know if I'm wrong, but mostly the mothers are overprotective than fathers. I believe. Does it do anything but
I don't know. It's possible, but I think men they just see things differently, right? Like again, it's the antakarna of the male entity as well. It could be more logical and the women more emotional. So there's the balance of buddhi versus
correct?
man. Like so, there's that, but there are also.
Prakash.
But you could tell me, but I think I've seen both. Like my husband is equally protective. So
Yes,
I think it's very natural.
Yeah.
For the mother to be more protective
Yeah.
of each other. I think it's just very
I think
natural.
nature
Yeah.
is like
I
that.
think it's
Ladies.
just
Yeah.
Ladies not with that.
Yeah.
they can relate much better.
Yeah.
I was going through something. The mother
Yeah.
understand it.
Mothers have that. Yeah. The like mother nature.
You want it, but I think the mother kind of.
Yes, that's definitely true. I think that's there. And I also, it reminds me of a paragraph in Swami Vivekananda's complete works, where he talks about the strength of women, the bravery of women, that when she's with her baby and she's walking down the street and a dog barks, she stutters. But the same woman, when she's feeding her child and a lion comes, you can find herself in the mouth of the lion, ready to like break its jaw because she's protecting that baby. So that, women, the power of Shakti, right? Have that. Yeah. Yeah.
So they do multitasking well in mention.
Yeah. I know
Their
these
brains are wired that way.
these days.
Actually, it's a double-edged.
That's why most of the secretaries are female. Right?
Yeah.
And now the bosses are also becoming.
Yeah.
Multitasking. Where is that mindfulness here now?
No, so the mindfulness का ऐसा रहता है ना कि mindfulness is a state of mind कि तो जहाँ पे तुम्हारा हाथ है वहाँ mind लेके आओ. That is mindfulness. That's it. If you're
That's
typing,
it.
put it there. That's it. Simple. It's not meditation. It's just awareness. वो जागरूकता कि मैं कर क्या रही हूँ. बर्तन धो रही हूँ, झाड़ू लगा रही हूँ, कीबोर्ड पे टाइपिंग कर रही हूँ, पेशेंट को देख रही हूँ. Feel your senses.
But meditation भी तो वही है.
उसके लिए तुमको बताऊं कि
Awareness.
क्लास ज्वाइन करने पड़ेगा तत्वबोध. Start with that. Because all those
And
questions that you're asking,
add me to this Mokshadham WhatsApp group.
I cannot go to our website. You can add
Oh,
yourself.
website.
Yeah. But it's just the community announcement group. But I'm telling you to join the Tattvabodha class and start studying systematically. क्योंकि तुमने जितने questions पूछे ना सबका आंसर वहां पे से मिल जाएगा.
But also, I think that's the point of meditation, right? You're withdrawing. You're withdrawing away from the senses. Mindful is you are still aware of what you're doing. When you're getting into pratyahara, is you're withdrawing from the fidgetiness, all of that. You're slowly withdrawing into a deeper place so that you can meditate. So there is that difference.
You'll study here actually. If you attend this, you'll understand what is meditation, what is pratyahar, what is dharana.
We'll
Dhyan
cover all
samadhi.
that, yeah.
Dharana, actually meditation को ध्यान बोलते हैं, which is the 7th stage of Patanjali Yog Sutra जो steps बताए हैं. उसके पहले के जो 6 steps हैं वो important है करना. उसके बिना meditation होता नहीं है. Simple बैठ के ध्यान करना meditation नहीं है. It's one point focus. उसको तैल धारा से compare किया गया. जैसे कनस्तर से जब तेल डालते हैं ना बॉटल में, तो पता नहीं चलता ना कि तेल का कण कहाँ है. एक धारा जैसे दिखती है ना. यू कैन फिगर आउट है ना कि एक एक कण जा रहा है. पानी का दिख सकता है बट तेल का नहीं दिखता है. तो तेल धारा से कंपेयर किया गया है. वो निरंतर एक पॉइंट फोकस को बोलते हैं मेडिटेशन. दैट इज कॉल्ड ध्यान एक्चुअली. ध वर्ड होता है धरा, धरती, धनुष जो किसी को धारती है. धर्म. जप इज अ वे ऑफ उपासना.
Mhm.
It is
Preparation.
preparation. It's a preparation. Okay.
Good. मैं
Yes,
कुछ
yes.
बोलूं? जब आपने बोला कि फीमेल लाइक स्त्री और पुरुष, तो एक तो बात आपकी सही है कि प्रकृति ने उसको ऐसा बनाया है क्योंकि वो जन्म देती है तो उसको प्रोटेक्ट करना है बच्चे को, तो वो ऑटोमेटिक आ जाता है. उसके लिए इमोशंस भी चाहिए. और जब आपने बोला कि जब जरूरत है तो शी इज एबल टू फाइट टू.
Yeah.
पर आई करेक्ट मी मेडिकल साइंस के हिसाब से हाँ, फीमेल और मेल एक्सटर्नली तो एक ही पार्ट डिफरेंट है, ओके, वरना तो एवरीथिंग इज सेम। दूसरा है हार्मोन, हार्मोन लेवल, टेस्टोस्टेरोन और
एस्ट्रोजन, एस्ट्रोजन, हाँ, तीनों।
just testosterone, या तो मेल में टेस्टोस्टेरोन ज्यादा होते हैं, फीमेल में कम होते हैं। पर दोनों मेल फीमेल में, जैसे शिव और शक्ति देखते हैं, तो हर एक मेल फीमेल में शिव और शक्ति होते
Correct.
हैं। फीमेल में बोलते हैं कि शक्ति पोर्शन ज्यादा है, तो उसको हार्मोन से शायद कनेक्ट कर सकते हैं, आई एम नॉट श्योर। मेल में शिव पोर्शन ज्यादा होता है, सो दैट्स लाइक मेनली थिंग, यू नो। पर um, और पुरुष इसलिए शायद इतने इमोशनल होते हैं पर दिखाते नहीं है, क्योंकि उनको माना जाता है कि दे आर ऑल्सो प्रोटेक्टेड, और वो, और लॉजिक भी चाहिए हर चीज में। लाइक अगर कुछ करना है तो अकेले इमोशंस से नहीं चलेगा, आपको लॉजिक भी उसके पीछे लगाना पड़ेगा। आपको अगर कुछ एक्शन लेना है, कुछ सॉल्यूशन लाना है किसी प्रॉब्लम का, एक इमोशनल अप्रोच से नहीं चलेगा। तो वो लॉजिक अप्रोच आई थिंक मेल्स में ज्यादा होते हैं, बट नॉट ऑलवेज। आई वुड से कि जो इमोशन नहीं, पर जो प्रोटेक्टर वाला जो पोर्शन है वो मेल में भी होता है। मेरे हस्बैंड में ज्यादा है मुझसे।
Yeah.
आई वुड
एक्चुअली देखो, मैं बता रही हूँ तुमको, स्टॉप करके, हाँ, तुम शिव ही हो, शक्ति तुम पोजेस करती हो। देखने का तरीका तत्वबोध में लास्ट में मैंने पढ़ाया था, वो पढ़ोगी तुम।
ओके।
सब शिव हैं हम। जैसे चाक होता है ना, चाक क्या होता है? कुम्हार का व्हील, चाक बोलते हैं उसको। उसका एक धारा होता है, बेस होता है, वो शिव है। और जो चाक है वो शक्ति है। तो हम शिव ही हैं, हमारे अंदर शिव शक्ति नहीं है, हम शिव हैं। ओम शिवोहम, अहम ब्रह्मास्मि। और हमारी ही पावर है वो शक्ति, जिसको रिप्रेजेंट किया गया है फेमिनिन एनर्जी में। बिकॉज फेमिनिन एनर्जी, शक्ति मूव्स, शिव डजंट मूव। इट्स ऑलमोस्ट लाइक, अगर मैं मॉडर्न टर्म्स में समझाऊं, मैं गुरिंदर जी, नमस्ते गुरिंदर जी, ऑन कर लीजिए स्क्रीन अपना कैमरा। अगर मैं मॉडर्न टर्म्स में समझाऊं तो जैसे पर्दा रहता है जिसके ऊपर फिल्म प्ले होती है, पर्दा इज द शिव, उस पर लाइट का प्रोजेक्शन इज द शक्ति। वो चेंज होता रहता है सिचुएशन के हिसाब से। शक्ति में ही सतरज और तमस का खेल चलता रहता है, बट वो उसी की शक्ति है, उसके बिना नहीं हो पाएगा वो प्रोजेक्ट। तो अपने आप को ऐसे देखना है। और मेल फीमेल हार्मोन लेवल पे या ऑर्गन लेवल पे डिफरेंस हो सकते हैं, बट दोनों में सेम ही रहता है। समय आने पे कोई कुछ भी बन सकता है, अपनी शक्ति उजागर कर सकता है, जैसे रानी लक्ष्मीबाई, बहुत सारी रानियां ने किया है, दे वर ऑल ट्रेन्ड, राइट? तो इट रियली डजंट मैटर। यू के हार्मोन प्रकृति का पार्ट है ना, शिव प्रकृति का पार्ट नहीं है। यू कैन एक्चुअली ट्रांसेंड योर हॉर्मोन्स। एक्चुअली हार्मोन का इफेक्ट आता है लोगों पे, बट यू कैन ट्रांसेंड, सो दैट इज द पुरुषार्थ। जैसे बहुत लोग को हॉर्मोन्स बहुत परेशान करता है, जैसे प्री मेंस्ट्रुअल, ये क्या बोलते हैं उसको, मेनोपॉज एज में वगैरह में।
Perimenopause.
तो मैं उन लोग को यही बोलती हूँ, यू आर अबव दीज थिंग्स। हो रहा है, होने दो, डोंट गेट कैरिड अवे बाय दैट। इस तरह मेन का भी हो सकता है, कुछ सीन देख के उनको लगेगा बहुत सेक्सुअल एनर्जी राइज कर रहा है, बट अगेन यू आर ऑन टॉप ऑफ योर हॉर्मोन्स। इसीलिए शक्ति को शेर के ऊपर बैठ के दिखाया। शेर इज द डेविल इनसाइड अस। और बीस्ट, बीस्ट क्या है? काम, क्रोध, लोभ, मोह, मद मत्सर है, वो 6 विकार जो है माइंड के, शत्रु, षड्रिपु बोलते हैं। तो यू आर, योर शक्ति शुड एक्चुअली राइड ओवर दोज बीस्ट। यू शुड यूटिलाइज ऑल दोज षड्रिपु फॉर योर बेनिफिट। वो हम भगवत गीता में पढ़ेंगे डिटेल्स में, हाउ टू यूटिलाइज इट। क्योंकि तुम सारे एनिमीज को फ्रेंड बना सकते हो एक्चुअली। भले वो एनिमी बोला गया है कि काम ये है, क्रोध ये है, बट उसको सब तुम दिशा दे सकते हो। जैसे मैं तो बहुत लोभी हूँ, मुझे सब कुछ चाहिए मोक्षधाम में। योगा भी चाहिए, तत्वबोध वेदांत भी चाहिए, स्ट्रेंथ ट्रेनिंग भी चाहिए, किक बॉक्सिंग भी चाहिए, गुरुकुल भी चाहिए, वृद्धाश्रम भी चाहिए, और बोलूं मैं बहुत लोभी हूँ, बहुत ज्यादा, मुझे सब कुछ चाहिए। तो मतलब क्या है कि वो बुरा है? नहीं, क्योंकि उसकी दिशा मैंने परिवर्तित कर दी है। उसी तरह काम की, क्रोध की, लोभ की, जेलेसी की, एवरीथिंग, मद मत्सर है, मतलब घमंड की भी दिशा चेंज कर दो। मैं तो भगवान का बच्चा हूँ, फेवरेट।
आपका लोग प्रेयस मीन्स प्रेयस है।
प्रेयस और श्रेयस, वेरी गुड, या दैट्स व्हाट वी आर गोइंग टू स्टडी इन डिटेल व्हेन वी स्टार्ट भगवत गीता। हर की दिशा को परिवर्तन कर सकते हैं, फिर वो नया ही आयाम ले लेती है, डायमेंशन, इट गोज टू न्यू डायमेंशन, एंड दैट्स वेरी ब्यूटिफुल.